Hi, Simone. How are you?
Hi, Angie. I'm good. I think I'm still buzzing from yesterday.
It's
feeling
exciting.
really good.
We are so honored to have you here. It means a lot for you to be in Washington, D.C., sharing your story and your advocacy. We really appreciate that.
Yeah. It's, I feel like I was saying this to everybody yesterday, but it really, I feel honored to be here, to be able to be a part of the conversation and to hopefully, get some more people to listen to the conversation that may not have been listening before.
I'm so curious. We called you a few months ago and we said, hey, will you come out to Washington, D.C. and share your story with the White House? And I kind of wanted to know, what was going on in your head as you were making that decision?
It was a big surprise. Anytime, it was Fola called me, and I think I was in the mall somewhere, and I knew that it had to be something important, but I didn't exactly know what to expect, and so it was a really big surprise to find out that there was, this forum happening. I didn't know much about the Cancer Moonshot effort. I didn't know much about, all the organizations that were being involved. But it did feel like the right time. That's been, what's kept me kind of at a slow pace, just feeling ready to have the conversation and feeling like I had just an internal understanding of why it was important to me to speak about it. What are the things that I'm not willing to speak about? What am I comfortable speaking about? And that took a while to get comfortable with, being able to take my time and wait for what I felt was the right opportunity, where, my agenda for creating more awareness matched with the agenda of the organization that I chose to partner with. And I felt like it very much did in this case. And so I was really, really excited and really honored to be asked.
Oh, well, we're so grateful. So as you heard at the White House, Black Americans are impacted disproportionately as it relates to colorectal cancer. I'm so curious, did you even know colorectal cancer was a risk? Yeah. I mean, that it could happen?
I was not super familiar with colorectal cancer. Cancer has touched my family, but in different ways. Breast cancer has been in my family, stomach cancer. But I hadn't, colorectal cancer was something that I heard about, but not something that I really knew much about. So finding out that Black Americans are at a higher risk was kind of surprising, but kind of not. It seems that the Black community is at an elevated risk for lots of things, which, is a systemic issue in our healthcare system. So I wasn't entirely surprised, but I was surprised to find out how much young Black people are being hit by this disease. I think that was the biggest surprise for me. When Chad was diagnosed, it really felt like an anomaly. It really felt like, this makes no sense. What's happening? He's young, he's healthy, he works out every day. He has a really, really healthy diet. He doesn't smoke, he doesn't drink. He's the poster child for a healthy lifestyle. And to find out what the statistics actually were during the same time, how many people this was affecting, to speak to doctors throughout that journey and realize they were getting patients that were younger and younger and younger was a huge, huge wake-up call.
Were there things you wish you'd have known as you were going through that?
For sure, everything. I think everything that I know now, I wish I had known then. And you never know if it's going to make a difference. That's it's one of the more difficult things that grievers have to deal with, is thinking, what if this happened, but never really knowing. But there's a lot of information that I have now that I hope just with the weight of my experience, I can, now try to make sure it doesn't happen to somebody else.
Tell me about that, your hope. Now you've shared your story And it was incredibly powerful. I mean, you could have heard a pin drop in that room. It was beautiful. And I think that a lot of caregivers who have lost people they love felt heard, felt seen, felt like they could relate to you. Like, what do you hope comes out of sharing your story?
There's so many ways to say, one thing. I just hope more people live. I hope more people do take their health into their own hands. Obviously, this is a multi-layer issue. And it's not something that is the responsibility of one single party, and I don't want to insinuate that the burden or that all of the responsibility should be on the patient, because it shouldn't. But at the same time, there has to be an acknowledgement that this is the situation that we're in. All of the changes that we need to happen are going to take a long time to take effect. And so you do have to take your health into your own hands. You do have to be aware of what you're at risk for, that you are at above average risk for this disease. You need to be aware of what the symptoms are, what you should be looking out for, and you need to really take that seriously. Because this group that's being affected, these are the young invincibles. These are 20, 25, 30-year-olds who think, nothing's going to happen to me, I'm fine. And also because the symptoms of colon cancer can be kind of vague, it's difficult to attribute them to something so dire. It's easier to say, I've been really stressed out, so maybe that's why, I'm constipated. I haven't had enough water in the last few days. I haven't been having enough fiber. Maybe, it's so easy to attribute it to something else and to avoid this very scary subject altogether. But I hope that we can kind of demystify screenings, demystify colon cancer with the knowledge that when you catch it early, it's very, very treatable. I think it's something like 95%.
Yes.
Yeah, correct me on all of my numbers.
You're on it. No, that's...
and that's a number that drops down to like 11% if it's late stage, if it's stage 4, surviving past 5 years. So if we can pay more attention in our youth, if we can be more aware, then we can really catch this disease before it has an opportunity to take hold.
There was a lot of conversation about equity and access and messaging to the Black community as it relates to prevention. And I'm just curious, I think the authentic story of real people impacted by this disease is one of the most powerful things in someone's life. And as you hear these stories of this happened to me, this happened to my brother, this happened to my mother. Now that you have a story to tell, what would you say to your friends and family about colorectal cancer? What do you hope they take away from sort of turning your pain into purpose?
The word that came to mind when I was listening to you ask that question was representation. And I know that on a large scale, we've talked about representation in film and in TV, and that we need to see ourselves in uplifting roles, And I think that when we talk about healthcare, we're talking about a facet of representation as well. We need to know that this can happen to us. We need to see that somebody that looks like me is going through this, and that means that I should be a little bit more aware for myself that it can happen to me too. There was also a lot of talk yesterday about having tailored approaches to various communities, which I thought was an incredibly important point to make, that there is not a one-size-fits-all approach to talking about this disease, to talking about access to screenings, and making sure that our message is suitable for all the people that we're trying to reach. So I would just urge them to pay attention. And not only that, but there are environmental factors that contribute to this disease. And when we get into all those environmental factors, that's another facet of this kind of, systemic injustice that Black and brown communities face.
And listening to your bodies.
And being
absolutely. Okay with talking about it. I think that's one thing that, we just really need to encourage people that they're not wrong about how they're feeling, and they need to be able to share that with their healthcare providers. So we're here in Washington, D.C., and we always say at Fight Colorectal Cancer, we're here to fight for more. And we want more. We deserve more. Our patients deserve more, and their families do. As you think about those words, like, I want to fight for more, who are you fighting for?
I'm fighting for people who don't get fought for enough. And that doesn't have, those folks don't have one singular name. They're my friends, they're my family, they're my neighbors. They're people that I have never met and may not ever meet. But I'm fighting for more information. I'm fighting for more access, and I'm fighting for more awareness.
Mm-hmm. I have to share this with you because when I saw that your husband had passed of colorectal cancer, I remember hearing that story, and I said it was such an intentional effort in the article to say colorectal cancer. And as a community, we don't see that. And so I know that was such a difficult time for you, but I want you to know, just as a caregiver, as a spouse, as just a human, it meant so much, and it was felt by people that didn't feel heard or seen. And it did feel like you were fighting for us. So I do want to thank you for what a powerful story you have and a platform that you're using for good. And we just really appreciate you took the time to share it with us.
I think the thing that is most heartbreaking to me is through learning about this disease and how it attacks the body and how it starts, is that if we had had this information, this could have been avoided. I'm glad that at least, I can take the opportunity to turn pain into purpose and into progress. And I think that purpose is what gives me hope. What is keeping me going. But it just didn't have to be this way. And so if there is an opportunity to save someone else's partner, someone else's friend, and someone else's son, then I'm blessed to be able to take part in that. I'm blessed to be able to work with you and your team and just continue the great work that you're doing.
We are so honored, and you are an amazing human. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh.